I'd like to welcome everybody to our luncheon for Honorary. It's being sponsored by the California Rheumatology Alliance. For you who don't know, that is the organization that represents rheumatology in the state of California and advocates for access to rheumatology care. I just wanted to recognize some things here. I just wanted to say, having my mask off, everybody eating, looking at the Santa Monica Bay, it's pretty amazing after a year and a half not being able to do this. I want to thank the organizers of the conference, putting it together, UCLA, Corey Goodwill and her team. I think they've done a great job so far. I wanted to also thank Shanna, the executive director of CRA, for putting together this lunch. Thanks very much, Shanna. Additionally, I'd like to introduce Sammy Matias, if he's here. He's the president of our organization, been doing an incredible job for the last 2 years. Thanks very much, Sammy. And Tim Madden is also here. He is our advocate and represents us. He's back there getting his food. In Sacramento, he's doing an incredible job helping us with the legislative agenda and also pushing rheumatology's needs. Thanks very much. Well, we got a crowded schedule. There are a few people who wanted to talk about our honorary, but I wanted to start out first. And it's sort of hard to know where to start with this person. As a researcher, he's sort of done a lot, a really immense amount. And he's changed rheumatology over the years and had some breakthroughs for us. It's really changed care. As an academic, he's been a professor at 5 different medical schools. Presently, he holds 3 positions. He basically commutes from LA, from UCLA, and commutes to Washington on a monthly basis. And before COVID, in the fall, every year he would go to Italy, University of Florence, where he would teach and attend in the fall. And I also forgot, he'd go to Alexandria in Egypt, just for the hell of it, once a year to do some of that. So he was rather busy with that. He's also been director and headed up 5 different university and pharmaceutical company laboratories where breakthroughs have been made in all rheumatological diseases, autoimmune diseases. He's worked on those also. It's hard to believe, but he's authored 974 published articles, chapters, and books, not to mention the abstracts. He's taught and trained 2 generations of rheumatologists, many of us here. He served as president, vice president, chair, co-chair, board of directors, editor, editorial boards, chair or member of over 200 organizations, scientific societies, committees, journals, publications, and scientific conferences. Throughout his career, he's done visiting professorships, organized heavy conference meetings, and lectured throughout the United States, internationally, in 6 continents of the world. He hasn't yet gone to Antarctica, but I think that's soon to come, actually. He's working on that. He's really gone almost anywhere, and in his spare time, he's done something else. He's practiced rheumatology. So he's been rather busy. I remember the first time I met him. I thought I would really be intimidated by him. I was staring at this thin guy, intense looking, with a mustache. But he had this smile, and it sort of put me at ease, and I was thinking, how could one person do this in 5 lifetimes, let alone 1? Couldn't figure it out. Finally came to me. He doesn't sleep. So in 2015, he came to practice with me. The first thing he said to me was, I get in at 5 in the morning. Is anyone going to be here to assist me? I said, no, the staff shows up at 7:30. So he looked at me a little irritated and they said, not a problem, Gary. That's a good time to get my Asia calls in. And I come into the office every morning and I'd see Dan there in his office, his shoes off, feet up on the desk. He'd probably be eating something. And was talking to somewhere else on the planet, and it looked like he'd been doing it for hours, maybe all night long. I couldn't tell. There was this whiteboard his crew would have to track him, see where he was or where he was going to be. He was moving pretty fast at that time, and he was hard to track, sometimes traveling 3 to 4 continents in a week. So one day I went up to him, one of the busier months, and I looked at the whiteboard and I asked him, how do you even keep track of where you are, where you're going, and when do you sleep? He said, very matter of factly, I don't. My staff tells me which airline to get on, which flight I get on. As soon as I board, get in the seat, I'm asleep. And when I wake up, I know where I am. That's the way he did it. So I thought to myself, how does he do it while living on steaks, junk food, and M&Ms? And who is this guy and what makes him tick? I'm not sure I ever figured out the answers to those questions. Even when he had surgery in the neck, rotator cuff, even the heart, he was gone for a week and then he was back at it again. Never tiring, never losing his passion for learning new things throughout the world, wherever he had to go. Doing new things for others, for his patients, for organizations, teaching new things to medical students, residents, fellows, practicing rheumatologists like me and his academic colleagues. Dan has never stopped. He's made a difference to everyone with whom he's been connected with his drive, curiosity, humanity, and intelligence. All I can say is I'm humbled by the quality and the quantity of his work and accomplishments in a career devoted to rheumatology, and we are all better for it. I'd like to say to you, Dan, I valued being able to work with you and to learn from you, and I'm proud to be your colleague and your friend. So we have a lineup of people that would like to also say something about Dan. We have Dr. Suleiman on the phone, Yosra Suleiman from Egypt at this time, where she is a professor at Asut University in Egypt. Can we get Dr. Suleiman on the screen?
I'm very honored that I am participating in such a great meeting to honor and celebrate the lifetime achievements of my mentor and my friend and my main advisory board in life, Dr. Furst. So today I will not be talking a lot about what Dr. Furst did to me, but I will be talking about some moments that I received Dr. Furst differently. So I worked with Dr. Furst for almost 3 years in Los Angeles. And one of my first meetings was him.
Here, you can sit here. I'm gonna get up and get my food.
Can you hear me?
You're done.
Okay, so one of my first meetings with him in Los Angeles was at 7 a.m. And this is the usual time of Dr. Furst.
Doesn't matter. The one around is that's what they're cleaning my mess.
So he's
I know.
So he starts his meetings at 4 or 5 a.m. So, and he started giving me things to do, research related. And every time he ends the meeting with, this should be enough to keep you off the streets. So 3 years later, after I finished my PhD work there, I wish I could have seen the streets of Los Angeles. I've never seen them because of the amount of work we did together. So back also to Los Angeles, I was working with his coordinators to do the research work there. And I spent some time in Switzerland before. So one of the coordinators told me, she was wondering why, she's asked me, what brought you here to Los Angeles working here since you started already and published some work at Switzerland? Why didn't you stay there? So I did think for 2 minutes, and I told her, like, I didn't know exactly, but maybe I fell in love with Dr. Furst and his work ethic and how he treats his patients. And this moment she laughed and she told me too. That's what keeps me working here, is that I am in love with Dr. Furst. So Elaine, you have to be aware that everyone is in love with Dr. Furst. So Dr. Furst, with his great personality, excellent scientific ethics, succeeded in helping me and a lot of other rheumatologists to achieve their goals, both in science and also in life. So I will also show you some pictures of Dr. Furst, because as you have seen before, that he travels a lot. He's barely in Los Angeles. So I will show you some of his pictures in Egypt, and some of them were very personal, where he attended my PhD, since he was my mentor, and this was in Egypt. So this was before the PhD dissertation. We had a conference in Egypt in Hurghada, and he and Elaine are the light of the picture. This is in Asyut. This is a little bit in the south. This is in my apartment. And this was after we had lunch and we were having tea. This is during my dissertation. And Dr. Furst was very, very helpful, and he was defending the PhD with me. So this was after the dissertation, where he had enough knowledge to know that we had monuments and pharaonic monuments in Asyut, where I live, which I didn't know about. This is in Cairo, which was the first time I met Dr. Furst in 2012, where he came to Cairo to see patients. And this is where I fell in love with him. Sorry, Elaine. So I hope we get to meet again and make more memorable moments with Dan and Elaine, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I want to call up Suzanne and Pina to say a few words.
I don't have any pictures. Well, you know, I've been really fortunate to be able to work with the Dan since 2003, when I was a UCLA fellow, rheumatology fellow. First day, met him, and over the last couple of decades, our relationship has really gone from mentor-mentee to now more of a collaborator, a friend, and a valued person in our lives. For probably all of you, this has been a similar transition for each and every one of you, where you have similar stories. So what Dan does is he kind of sucks you in, right? He sucks you in, he welcomes you into his home with Elaine. He wines and dines you, beguiles you with good food and wine and captivating conversation. And then the next thing you know is you're on 100,000 projects with him. You're doing a majority of the work. And, you know, and he now has, like, you've signed your deed for your house to him, your children, all of the generations to go, you know, he's got them working for him too. But, you know, Dan is really a master, and something you should really learn. He's able to keep all these balls in the air, pushing each project through. And that's the reason for his success, as well as a secret weapon, Elaine, who's in the background helping as well. And I mean, the ability to be able to think of so many different projects that are really clinically relevant to our patients.
And it's really because of his ingenuity, his sheer curiosity, and his motivation to promote really good science, which is the reason why he's got these 900 publications to his name. And it's really his patience and his love for patients and his love for science. So, of course, this award, you deserve this award. Nobody's going to be able to say you don't. And if only we could be just 10% of what you are, we would feel like we were a success. And thank you so much for being a part of our lives.
So how can you top that? I was given 2 minutes to give my impression or what I think of Dan. So I thought I figured rather than doing that, I wanted to see what life would be for me without Dan. And what I thought is that it would be, so I imagined myself walking into the office and what I would be missing. It would be life without M&Ms around. There would be life without those snippets, the funny snippets that you have on the wall. It would be life without having you learn how to cheat on your taxes. No, he did not. He did not teach me that. But it would be life without angels. And I'll explain. I met Dan when I was at the lowest point in my life. And having lost my husband with 2 children, he took me under his wings and opened up his heart. And this is something that not many people know that Dan is that he's an angel. And he's a teddy bear below all that facade that you see. So I know Dan as a friend, as a mentor, and as a father figure. And I don't see anybody that is more deserving in life than you for having this. So thank you for being who you are, for being there for me, the little child that grew up in Syria that could not have imagined being here. So thank you for all you do.
I didn't think we'd get that emotional so quick, so that's pretty good. Next up is Betty Hall. I don't think you need an introduction, do you?
Well, Dan, you all know I'm an incurable academic, and so I brought a PowerPoint. Okay, I didn't realize Dan was an angel, but I'm going to think about that. But I know he's today's Renaissance man. I mean, he does so many things, and he does them so well, and he's so terrific. So, since I'm an academic, I had to go through his CV. So I've broken down these 900 publications. So I want to take you back 20 years. It's the year 2002, and UCLA Rheumatology has its first ever and only chair in rheumatology, which means you get money to help your salary, you get money to do research, and everybody knows that you're a very important person. So we did a nationwide search for who should sit in the Pearson chair, and we wanted somebody who was world famous and highly productive and a rheumatologist. So we did this big search, and we were lucky enough to get Dan Furst to take the Pearson chair and occupy it with great distinction. Now, he was educated at Johns Hopkins, and I put that up because that's my alma mater, and I know that there are people in the room who are also from Hopkins. We see your names. Is Jim here? Jim? Yeah, Jim. And I'm representing it with a turtle, because one of the things at Hopkins that you do is you participate in the Turtle Derby every spring, right, Dan? Yes. And that was a turtle race. And I don't know about you, but one year I actually bought a turtle for the race. And she's up there with her bow. And I trained her. And she came in last. Took her 30 minutes to go 1 yard. And the winner did it in 25 minutes. Now, leadership, I can't get everything on the slide for dinner. So he's on the board of directors of the California Rheumatology Alliance. And what more do I need to say? There's leadership, because here we are. And he has played major roles in the clinical guidelines for diseases for the American College of Rheumatology, the European League Against Rheumatology. And whenever I go to a meeting, which is going to have something to do with making a decision about how people should practice, Dan's always there in the leadership. His productivity, everybody's talked about. He has 571 original research articles, which is huge, and that means he's publishing one major article a month. One major article a month. Most of us get 2 or 3 a year, we think we're doing real well. One a month, and that's just the articles. He also has 368 book chapters, and he has 19 books that he's published. So this is quite incredible. And he's led and participated in clinical trials and the studies of pharmacology of almost every treatment you can think of that we're using today. I left out the ones that we used to use and aren't using anymore. So if you can read that, you just can't find hardly anything that we're doing today that he hasn't played a leadership role in developing and presenting to us and studying. Now, this is usually with large consortia, but you've heard why he's in large consortia. People love to work with him because he's bright, he's energetic, he gets the work done, and he makes you work, which makes you feel like a participant. Fame, he's been on all these faculties. He's still on 3 faculties. He was a member of the pharmaceutical industry. He was at Ciba-Geigy, and he worked in private practices, which you heard from Gary. So he really has a foot in every important sphere, and he understands how those spheres work and can minimize how they might contend with each other. And that's very important. In his future possibilities, you don't want a world famous person who's very productive and he's thinking of retiring. So he'll come into this chair where he gets some extra money that he can use and he's not going to do too much. And that's always a danger. So no problem here. There's just no limit to his possibilities. Now, in order to have time to be famous and to start work at 5 in the morning, there have to be things you don't do. So this is one thing he doesn't do. This is a direct quote from him. I hate yard work. So I've been many times to his beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills here, where he and Elaine are such a great host and hostess. And that's the yard work there in the circle. You see those potted plants? That's it. He bought a house on a mountain, no yard. So that takes care of that problem. Now, there he is working. You picture him working. It's probably 5 o'clock in the morning here, and he's working from home because it's now, and we're all working from home. But the one thing he never gave up is his family. So I've shown you in the lower left, he's with Elaine, who is a Renaissance woman. And if you Google Elaine, you do get a photo of Dr. Kafaja, which I have not quite understood. You get a photo of Dr. Ranganath, and neither of them's named Elaine. And you get a lot of Elaines who are famous in movies and television. So she's listed on Google as an actress. So that's what she does when she's not nursing and helping with physical therapy and helping with everything that goes on in a family and 2 careers. She acts. And so you will see her in some roles, especially on television series. And often she's cast in the background, perhaps, or the foreground as a nurse, which is a good thing. And then here in the middle there is their daughter with her favorite animal. And on the right-hand side is his son in the back with his daughter-in-law and his 2 twin grandsons. So he hasn't given up this part. So I've done just a teensy look at Dan Furst, this really Renaissance man. Congratulations, Dan.
I'd like to have Maureen come up too and say a few words.
So I'll keep my comments relatively brief because I think you'll hear a lot of similar themes to what everyone else is saying. But when I really first started to get to know Dan was right when I was a junior faculty, maybe I think my first year being on faculty at UCLA. When Dan came and we worked on a project together, and I made a comment to, one of my colleagues who was also working on the project, and I said, Dan always emails me back at 4 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning. And the colleague said, well, that's because he travels. So he was probably in Asia or somewhere else, and it really wasn't the middle of the night. So the next time I got up, I saw that he had emailed me very early, and, I rolled into work at 7:15 or 7:30, and there was Dan sitting in his office. And so I realized that really he just is tireless. And I think that, you could never have accomplished as much as Dan has accomplished without that, constant sense of drive and work, not only to accomplish all the research he has, but also he's very tireless on behalf of his patients. And I know any of you who have ever cared for a patient with him, he'll really go to every extreme and, just to make sure that his patients are doing well and being taken care of. So the other one thing that I wanted to highlight is how Dan really brings us together. So Dan and Elaine always host a holiday party for us and host several get-togethers for our division. And I've always really appreciated how it really brings us together, gives our families a sense to get to know everybody in the division. And I will say that this year, my kids, last year when we pretty much were just staying home like everybody else was in the holidays, both of my kids commented how they really felt like it wasn't a holiday season without being able to get together at the UCLA holiday party at the Furst house. So obviously he brings us all together, not only our division, but also brings us all together here for this conference. And I really appreciated getting to work with Dan and see how he works to put this all together. So Dan, thank you. You really deserve everything, all the accolades that you get, and we all just really appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, there's going to be a holiday party this year.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. A lot of people have been disappointed you didn't say that, Dan. Thank you. Anyway, we're going to introduce now someone come up who's known Dan for a little while. Phil Clemens.
I'm probably the only person that's known Dan for 48 years, except for Elaine. So I came in 71 and he came in 73. We were mentored by Hal Paulus, among others. Hal, for the younger generation, means nothing. For the older generation, he was a mentor to many of us. He was a giant in RA and in randomized controlled trials. So in about 73, he called Bob Harris, Dan and me into his office, and he said, there's nothing going on in scleroderma here. I think you guys ought to do something. So there we are. So among the people who had mentored me were Hal and then my colleague, Dan. Hal was the wise mentor. This is the energized bunny. So we went about trying to develop some kind of methodology to study this disease. 1979, he was the lead author in the first randomized controlled trial in scleroderma. That was with N-acetylcysteine, which died for a while and then came back in the pulmonary literature. So over the years, we've gone from single-centered studies to multi-centered studies, and he's been a forward person, energetic, all that kind of stuff. And he helped train Dinesh. He told him how to become a clinical investigator. And as you heard this morning, Actemra is the first FDA-approved treatment for scleroderma. And he had something to do with that. So I can't think of anything else. You've all said everything else, so I'm pretty much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, not everybody could show up for this, Dan, so I'm going to read you a few things for people who haven't come to this for a lot of reasons. There's a Dr. Maureen Mays, professor at University of Texas, Houston. What she said was, I'd like to add my congratulations to that of others for this well-deserved award. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person, but I join you in spirit. Here are my reminiscences out of the many. I met Dr. Furst some 30 years ago when he welcomed me to my first scleroderma clinical trial and introduced me to the world of scleroderma research. Since then, he's become a trusted friend and colleague. I'm grateful for his advice, support, friendship over the past many years. I expect this to continue for the foreseeable future. On a personal note, when my son Ted first moved to Los Angeles, Dan and Elaine graciously hosted him in their lovely home. It was supposed to be 2 weeks. It ended up being 2 months until Ted got settled in his own place. I will always be grateful for their hospitality and patience. Mazel tov. Also from Christina Charles Schumann, who we all know. She says, hi, Dan. Thank you for all your tremendous work and contributions to UCLA Rheumatology. I look forward to many more years to come. Best wishes, Christina. And then Mano Venkatraman, MD from India. She writes, heartiest congratulations on this well-deserved honor. Dan, I couldn't be happier. Personally, it has been such a privilege and pleasure to work with you for the past 18 years, starting with the NIH-sponsored study comparing classical, complete Ayurveda with methotrexate for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. Your brilliant double-blind randomized placebo-controlled study design is the very first to successfully use the gold standard of clinical research to study a traditional system of medicine. Particularly notable was the work in developing appropriate placebos for numerous Ayurvedic medicine, which succeeded in maintaining the binding of the study. This phase 1 study has been recognized as the blueprint for clinical studies of complex traditional medical modalities, providing individualized treatments and using numerous pharmacological forms. Now we're about to start phase 3 of the study. Using your protocol funded by the Indian government, I've said many times that you deserve a gold medal for ending patients with them. Working with you has been the best intellectual experience for me. All our teammates at India love you and are grateful to you and hold you in the highest esteem. We're all very lucky to know and work with you. Thank you. We have one more speaker, I believe, don't we? Dr. Sheetal Desai wants to come up and say a few words about Dan.
My name is Sheetal Desai. I met Dr. Furst when I was a fellow at UCLA in 2005. And at that time, I was immediately drawn to him as a mentor because of his wit, his amazing drive, and his passion for excellence in everything that had to do with rheumatology, medicine, and patient care. Now, we all know he's wonderfully crazy. I mean, crazy in a really wonderful way. And we would always meet at 4 or 4:30 in the morning, virtually, sometimes in person, to go over projects. And probably one of the funniest stories I have is I was on bed rest for a complicated pregnancy during fellowship. And I remember calling Dr. Hahn and letting her know, and Ernie Braun, my program director, and they all said, Sheetal, don't worry, take care of yourself, take care of your baby, and take deserved time off. And then I called Dan to let him know I was pregnant and on bed rest. And he said, that is great, Sheetal. We can finally get the project we've been working on done. And during my entire bed rest, I could not buy any baby clothes. I could not prepare at all. I lay in bed on a laptop working on our chapter on anti-TNF therapy. I will say to the state, I'm so happy you made me do that. I mean, that would not fly with ACG in this era now with the millennial generation and Gen Z, but with me, it was totally fine. And my daughter is absolutely brilliant, probably because all I did was work on this chapter during that entire pregnancy. Since I left UCLA and I joined UC Irvine, Dan has been one of my mentors that has just been a huge help. When I left UCLA and went to UC Irvine, I was the second faculty at UCI. And it was a little scary to leave such an amazing place with amazing rheumatologists. And I remember Bevra telling me, listen, you can either go there and you will be on your own and you may completely fail, in which case you can consider coming back to UCI, or you may go there and you may make a huge difference and build a program. And I will say with Bevra, Dan has been instrumental. When my chief left me barefoot and literally pregnant in 2009, I reached out to Dan and he put me in touch with Jordy Laurie at University of Iowa, who then became my chief for the next 9 years. And I have now since taken over. And Dan and Elaine have been wonderful and invited me over to their house. I've been very honored to have Dan come over to our place and come to UCI and train our fellows and work together with him with the Scleroderma Foundation. And you know, Dan is just an amazing person. They don't make doctors like Dan anymore. And I tell our Gen Z and our millennial fellows, I give examples of Dan all the time. And I'm just looking forward to working with Dan for many, many, many more years to come. Dan, this is an award that is absolutely well deserved. Congratulations.
Well, I think that's just a few of people wanted to talk about him, but we had to limit it, Dan. Sorry about that. Get back to the conference. So I just like to say that we're honoring Dan Furst for his achievement as a rheumatologist, researcher, scholar, teacher, clinician, and a friend. A man for all seasons, he's tirelessly pursued excellence in everything he's done. And he's really propelled rheumatology forward with all of that, all these efforts. It's rare that someone comes along that's done so much and affected so many people with the deeds, actions, and being a model to students, colleagues, and patients. So it's my distinct privilege and pleasure to present Dan Eric Furst, the CRA Lifetime Achievement Award in Rheumatology. You deserve it.
All right, that was really cool. And as you know, my mother would have been very proud, I guess. You know, I really feel honored to receive this, and I want to thank the CRA, all of you here, who are so very kind to give it to me. They continue to support the practicing rheumatologists in our community, which is really great. You know, I felt that Lifetime Achievement Awards implicate that you are done. I want to officially notify anybody who's listening or who isn't that I am not done. You're all going to be stuck with me for a while, and I'm going to be bugging you in patient care and research interminably. You know, these lifetime awards are to one person, supposedly. But the things for which I've been given credit are really the work of colleagues and friends. We need to look to each other to work together with the clinic and the research work that we do. So you all deserve a bit of this award. So thank you. A lot of people deserve credit and thanks. I have a list, I have it here. It's only about a foot long. I'm not going to talk about everybody. There are a few people that I think I want to be particularly bring out. First, Hal Paulus, who you've heard about a little bit. He was my mentor for many years and who I still miss. He's one of the most self-effacing, modest giants in our field. Bevra, who brought me here, probably despite a good deal of resistance. Phil, who is the other side of my coin. I'm this way, he's this way. And then my colleagues, Vina, Jen Grossman, Maureen, John Fitzgerald, Christina, a large number of others. Also, my previous fellows and residents, Cy Levine, Bob Harris, Doug Fearon, Mike Brenner, a whole bunch of others. And cannot forget Jim Louie, who was one of my bosses at Hopkins. That was a long time ago. He's a rheumatologist, an art historian, and remains a truly good friend, so thank you. And then there's Peng Fan, probably the smartest person I know, and who epitomizes a Renaissance rheumatologist. He really does. I get these emails from him about violinists and poets and humor, and oh yeah, occasionally rheumatologists. And more recently, Gary, a valued colleague of mine with Pacific Arthritis. Thank you. Oh, and last, but certainly not least, is my wife, Elaine. She's a true partner whose support without whom I truly could not do what I do, and who's not only a 5-star chef, and she lectures to scleroderma patients all around the country, but who is willing to come off the TV and movie set to help me make slides. If any of you knows a good agent for her, please let me know. Thanks so much.
Well, that concludes the program. Thanks everyone for coming, and I think the conference has been great so far, and hopefully we're going to have more to come. Absolutely. Enjoy the view and your notes.